We have new information in the story of a former college cheerleader accused of giving birth to a baby in her off-campus house, then allegedly hiding the baby's body until her roommates found the child. Court records say that Laken Snelling gave birth allegedly to a full-term baby, one who she told doctors was alive. Now, a judge is altering what her life is like outside of jail as we wait to see what could happen next in this shocking story. More on the case presented by Law&Crime. I'm Stewart.
We have a lot to get to in this episode of On the Case as we continue to follow the story of Laken Snelling. Very disturbing case that we're following out of Kentucky. Before we get into that, I do need to take a moment and talk about our partner and sponsor, Morgan & Morgan. This is America's largest injury law firm. They have more than 1,000 attorneys who have recovered more than $25 billion for more than 500,000 clients. In the past few months alone, a client in Florida received $12 million when the insurance company offered just $350,000. In Pennsylvania, another client was awarded $26 million, which was 40 times the insurer's offer. Morgan & Morgan makes it easy to fight for what you deserve. You can even start a claim on your phone. So if you've been injured and you need to start a claim, go to www.forthepeople.com/OTC. You can also scan this QR code on your screen or click the link below. Right now, Laken Snelling is facing charges, including a charge of abuse of a corpse for allegedly what she did to her newborn baby's body that she gave birth to in an off-campus house outside the University of Kentucky.
This is a picture of Laken Snelling. She used to be a student at the University of Kentucky. She withdrew from the school because of what allegedly played out in her off-campus apartment on August 27th. Now, Snelling is currently out on bond. We're waiting to hear what a grand jury decides in this case of whether or not she'll be indicted, but we do have some new information on what her life is like as she is waiting for this court case to move forward. I'll get to that in a little bit. I also want to be clear. The story that we are talking about, the story I'm about to tell you at this point, is not a manslaughter case, and it's not a murder case. It's unclear if Snelling could face more charges based on the facts of this case that we're still learning about. Snelling was not just a student at the University of Kentucky, she was a member of the school's elite stunt cheerleading team. Now, UK, that's a big-time athletic school. It's part of the SEC, so it's a big deal to be a Wildcat, to be a member of one of the sports teams. Here's a picture of Snelling on the school's official athletics website. And this is a screen grab from a video of the Wildcats competing per float cheer on YouTube. This video was from April of 2025, meaning if the baby that she gave birth to was full term in August, like police say, then she is pregnant in the image that you're looking at right here. On August 27th, Lexington, Kentucky police were called to the house of Laken Snelling for a report of an unresponsive infant. The child was pronounced dead on scene. Police say that the baby was found in a closet, and an arrest citation says the infant was wrapped in a towel inside of a black trash bag. The citation reportedly says that Snelling was read her rights, and she allegedly admitted to giving birth to the baby. Then she allegedly said that she concealed the birth by cleaning evidence and putting all cleaning items inside of a black trash bag, along with the body of the infant who was wrapped in a towel. There's some newly released court documents that the Kentucky Colonel, which is the student newspaper at UK, have that reveal that Snelling told police that she gave birth around 4 o'clock in the morning, and she told officers that she didn't think the baby was breathing or alive. She also said that she was awake for about a half hour and then she fell asleep on top of the baby. When she woke up, the baby had turned blue and purple. She reportedly said that she didn't think the baby was alive. She then said that she wrapped the baby like a burrito and laid next to it in a moment of what was described as comfort. Now, this is all per these new court documents, and it is interesting to see how the story that she allegedly told police that we were reading about in those documents, how it compares to what she allegedly told doctors when she later went to a hospital. Now, when Snelling says she woke up, she had a class that she was going to go to. She allegedly wrapped the baby in a towel and put the body in a trash bag, then placed the bag in the closet. She also reportedly cleaned up the blood in the room with paper towels, and she put the placenta in a Ziploc bag. Even though she had just gone through this major medical event, traumatic to say the least, and that her newborn baby boy was dead, Snelling then reportedly left the house to go to her class. But she says she actually didn't go to class. She instead sat in her car, and the court documents say she ordered McDonald's through the McDonald's app. While all of this was happening, there appears to have been multiple roommates in the house. Now, around the time that Snelling reportedly said that she gave birth, One of her roommates texted a Snapchat group that they thought they had heard something fall, and another roommate said they thought they heard noises for roughly an hour. After Snelling left for class, her roommates went into her room. It appears she never told them that she was pregnant, but they were suspicious. And when they entered the room, they allegedly found a blood-soaked towel and plastic bag containing evidence of childbirth. They also found the baby, and that's when they called police. Snelling eventually went to the hospital, and it's there that she allegedly told doctors that the baby displayed, quote, a little bit of fetal movement. And he made a, quote, whimper, and she, quote, guessed that the baby was alive. Now, these statements will obviously be huge as this case moves forward. Snelling's digital footprint will also be key evidence moving forward in this case, because it appears that police have images of Snelling during labor that she allegedly deleted. Police say in a request for a search warrant for her social media accounts, they say, quote, they could contain current or deleted information that relates to Ms. Snelling's pregnancy, to the birth of the full-term baby, and ultimately its potential demise. Publicly, we know that Laken Snelling appeared to be active on social media up until the spring, when she stopped posting pictures of herself. Another shocking part of this is that it appears that she presented herself publicly as someone who had aspirations to be a mom. Here's the last post that she had on TikTok. It's from June. It's a picture with emojis that describe her. And you can see in the bottom left, we notice that there's one that says goals, and it shows an emoji of a mom with a child. Now, another big question that at this point we don't know the answer to is who's the father of this baby boy that Snelling allegedly gave birth to in her off-campus home? Now, we know there's an ex-boyfriend who submitted DNA to police, and she was also reportedly in a relationship with another man in more recent months, but it's unclear what their status is right now. As this case moves forward, Snelling is not in jail. Her bond was set at $100,000, which she posted. Snelling is facing 3 charges: abuse of a corpse, tampering with physical evidence, and concealing the birth of an infant, and she's pleaded not guilty to those charges. The new information in this case that we have is that the conditions of her bond, though, are being changed. Local media is reporting that Snelling must now wear an electronic monitoring device while she is on house arrest. She also can only be on house arrest at one location, opposed to splitting time between her mom and dad's houses. She'll be staying at her dad's house, which is just over the border, a couple hours away from Lexington in Tennessee. Now it's unclear what prompted that change to her bond conditions. Right now, Snelling's case is awaiting a potential indictment from a grand jury, which will decide what charges she'll face. And that potentially could mean murder charges or manslaughter charges if the grand jury finds there is evidence to support that.
Joining us now to talk more about this case is Serena Townsend, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor. It's always great to have you on Law and Crime. We don't know officially why the judge modified the conditions of Laken Snelling's bond. She'll be on a GPS monitor. She's got to live at her dad's house just over the Kentucky line in Tennessee. What typically goes into that decision as to why a judge might do something like this?
You know, usually when these types of conditions are modified for the worse for a defendant, something happened. It could be as simple as, they couldn't verify the address was a secure address, that it was an address that they could rely upon. Maybe the mother is planning on moving. It could also be criminal activity. Maybe there was some sort of thing that happened at the house by either the mother or somebody else who lives at the house who may have committed some sort of crime or is suspected of a crime. It could be a lot of things, but it's usually some sort of bad news if a modification like this happens.
This case happened out of college, and Laken Snelling's an out-of-state student, it seems. She grew up in Tennessee. How common is it that someone would be on house arrest for a case in one state, but she has to live in another?
It's not necessarily unusual, especially charges like this. I mean, usually a person who's facing this type of charge, such a high-level situation, media attention situation, oftentimes spends the entire process behind bars, awaiting their trial. The fact that she's out to begin with is kind of leniency towards her. The whole purpose of bail is to make sure that somebody returns to court. So certainly if somebody is out of state, in a different location from the court, the judge is going to be concerned about how likely that person is going to come back. And so these restrictions are necessary to guarantee their return.
Now, moving forward with this case, she still has yet to be indicted, if that'll happen, by a grand jury. I think with the evidence, it's safe to assume that she will be indicted on something. This is not a murder case at this point. This isn't a manslaughter case at this point. What would need to happen for it to get there beyond just what is already a very serious charge of abusing a corpse that she faces? But if it is murder, if it is manslaughter, what would need to happen to get to that point?
In these types of cases, it's really hard to be able to put forth proof beyond a reasonable doubt for every single element of that kind of charge. Right now, the charges that she's facing are the ones that are very clearly able to be proven. You have this sadly, dead infant who was just born in a closet. There are certain things that you know to be true based off of that. But you do not know for sure at this point, and this is what kind of evidence they're collecting, how that happened and what her thought process was. It's very important to know what her mens rea was, what her intentions were, what she knew, what's reasonable for her to have known in this type of scenario. The fact that she mentions that she heard the baby whimper is a huge detrimental fact to her case. It's kind of an admission that the baby was not stillborn, was born alive, and that perhaps due to her actions, that baby did not survive. And so the DA is going to have to piece together all of those elements to be able to prove that but for the things that she did, and they have to figure out what things she did, that baby would have still been alive. Not only that, they have to also show her state of mind. Was she in shock? Did she form the intent to kill? That will determine what type of charge she'll be facing, manslaughter, murder, etc.
And she's also accused of just concealing a pregnancy. And, her roommates, they just based off how she looked, they kind of felt like something was up. This baby was born reportedly full term. Of course, anybody who is pregnant, it's their business, it's their story that they're dealing with. But when does it get to a point where it becomes criminal, where when you look at what happened, she gives birth to this child, her roommates end up finding it. The fact that she wasn't open about being pregnant, how does that factor into how this criminal case could play out?
It factors into it a lot. A lot of the evidence that the DA is going to have to get in order to prove that particular charge is going to be testimonies of witnesses, testimonies of people who saw her and could testify as to what her actions were. What did she do or not do in order to help conceal this pregnancy? Did anybody ask her about whether she was pregnant and then she denied it, which is a lie? Did she seek medical attention for the pregnancy? If not, then did that exacerbate the injury of the baby inside of her? And so all of the things that she did to not disclose when it was imperative to disclose. You're right. A woman doesn't necessarily have to tell the world that she's pregnant, but there are certain things that we as a society expect women to do in order to care for a growing baby inside of her.
I also think of the narrative that police have put together of what she did after giving birth, specifically when she wakes up. She says she wakes up, she had a class to go to that morning. I think it was around like 8:30 in the morning. So, she allegedly, and it's just so tough to talk about, but cleans up the scene in her room. She then leaves the house, doesn't go to class, but she went to like a medical center, didn't go in. And then they also apparently have the way to prove that she ordered something on McDonald's, the McDonald's app. How does that impact her? Because clearly at any point in time as she goes from step to step, she could go back to the house. She could have called the authorities, but she allegedly didn't. What could that mean for her defense that prosecutors are going to be able to lay out, not only did this happen, but you did this after?
Yes, prosecutors harp oftentimes on the actions of an individual after the event itself, because it allows them to tell a jury, to tell a judge, to explain in the charges why they're charging the things that they are charging. The fact that she did all of those things shows a consciousness of guilt. It doesn't show, this remorse. It doesn't show an attempt to prevent this child from dying. It doesn't show the actions of an innocent individual. It shows culpability. And you can tell a lot about a person, and this is what prosecutors argue all of the time in these types of cases. Jurors, if you're trying to figure out whether this person meant to do a crime or not, whether this person should be held liable for their actions, look at what they did after the effect. You can determine a person's state of mind during a crime a lot of times by looking at the things they did both before, during, and also after the crime itself.
And then I also just think from the defense's point of view, because Laken Snelling went through a very serious medical episode in her room by giving birth, and then she gets up and walks out the house. She ends up going to class. What could a defense attorney argue just about her mental state at that time, considering she had given birth in a room by herself? I mean, that's a traumatic experience, I'm sure, that she went through, not to excuse what she's accused of doing, but how could a defense attorney kind of take all of that and present it to a jury to try and get them to see her in a different light than what the prosecution wants her to be seen as?